folks, Ariel over here. I wanted to do a quick little update on these new planters that we added down the long south side of the shop this spring. If you want to see us putting them together and filling them and all that stuff, I'll try to remember to link at the end or whatever to the video where we did that. But these are new this spring. So far we're still really happy with the planters themselves. They seem quite sturdy. They haven't gone anywhere at all. Can't give you a real longevity report for a few years yet, but I see no reason that they will not continue to hold up. As far as what's growing, what I planted in here was quite a experiment, because the theory was that because this is a big metal shop building and it's dark gray, and these are dark gray, and what I'm walking around on here is dark gray gravel, and this side faces south, which in the northern hemisphere is where most of our sun is. Though right now when the days are so long, the sun's actually coming up behind the building, then it's in front of the building most of the day and then setting behind the building as well. But in the cooler, shorter day months, all the sun comes from here. Anyway, the theory was that all this massive gravel, big thick planter beds, dark metal would soak up and then retain heat like a heat sink. These also are at least partially watered by rainwater off the roof above me. Now that certainly does not do all the watering, hi baby, that they need, because we get very little rain. It's almost July. I think we had, I do, I will snuggle you, I will. We had 1 3/4 inch storm the other week, and other than that we've had a few splats that were like enough to barely make drops in the dust. But when it does rain, these do catch the majority of the water, so that's been working really well. But the main idea was that this would be a microclimate because of all the heat retained in the rock on the ground, the mass here, the mass of the building, etc., that it would hopefully be warmer than the whole rest of the property. If you're new here, welcome. We live a little over 6,000 feet above sea level in the Wyoming mountains, in a place where it is winter about 8 months a year, and we can get snow and freezes every day of the summer. We don't get them every day, but they can happen on any day, and we do get them routinely. Our most recent snow, this is the beginning of July, was 2 days before the official first day of summer on the calendar. So what was that, June 19 or something? We had snow. So that gave us a test. I planted things in here. I do not normally plant in the garden. Usually, I now have a routine set up in the garden. I know my beets will do well, and my cabbage, and my potatoes, and you can look at the videos of that. But I kind of plant the same things in the veggie garden every year, because they're the things that I know will do well in our climate. I wanted, with these, to experiment with things that I know will not normally do well in our climate. And so I kind of overplanted things. Was pretty sure it wouldn't all survive, but figured this was a test year to see what would grow. And I am very pleasantly surprised with what has been surviving. The real test was that, I'll show you in a minute here more details of what's in these beds. There's quite a variety, but that whenever we had that snow, it was 27 degrees overnight, 2 nights in a row with snow in between, and there are things in here that are not frost hardy. Now, even though almost everything I plant in the garden is able to take some frost, cabbages can, onions can, garlic can, etc. I have those frost covers that I use regularly and roll over them. But I wanted to be able to plant stuff in here I was hoping that could be killed by frost but would stay warmer and therefore wouldn't. So we're going to see how that worked. I have various things in here. Amaranth is not frost hardy. Sweet corn is not frost hardy. Squashes of various kinds. I have squashes and melons and even some watermelons and such in every corner of the beds down through here. They are not frost hardy. What else do I have? Some pole beans, etc. These are things I've never been able to grow and that I know will die if it gets even close to freezing. So we got a good test. 2 days in a row where the nights were 27 degrees Fahrenheit. That's below freezing. I forget what exactly that translates to in Celsius. And right across the lane, that's about 20 feet maybe to the other side, where we have a water bucket sitting that the dogs and cats and whatever drink out of, I could kick ice off of it in the morning. It wasn't a thick layer, but there was, a good 1/8 inch of ice on that in the morning. Things did not freeze in here. I'll take the camera around for a close-up. There was a little bit of frost damage on a couple of the very tippy-top leaves on, I didn't see any on the corn. Oh, I've got tomatoes and peppers. They're certainly not frost hardy. They're also small. I'm not sure they will grow to mature to making fruit this year, this was an experiment to see if they would grow at all. Is it worth getting seedlings or starting them inside and whatever? Will they be able to survive here? And they did. I did not see frost damage on any of them. There was a little bit of frost on a couple of the upper leaves on a few of the squashes and a couple of the beans. But everything lived. Nothing was covered. I do not have frost covers for these. And that was really, really exciting. I didn't have a super detailed thermometer set up or anything to test exactly what the lowest temperature was that it got to here versus 20 feet over there, for instance. But I do know that these things normally in my garden, even with frost covers on, in those temperatures would have died, or at least been badly, badly burned. And some of them would have died. The squashes and tomatoes and such do not do well in that. And as you can see, they are all thriving. So that is super exciting. So I think the rest of the summer remains to go by, but I think our experiment in using this little microclimate has really worked, which is super, just super exciting to see what we can grow. So even if you live in a warm area and you're looking for a different microclimate, like I have friends who garden in Florida and Texas, you may be able to do the same kind of thing in some spot on your property, but in reverse. Find the extra cool, extra shaded. I mean, most plants still need some light, especially if they're going to make a fruit, but you may be able to find a cooler microclimate, because this is super exciting, and I think we are going to grow a bunch of things over time here that we could not otherwise without a greenhouse on our property. Now we're going to run around to a quick close-up of what we actually have going here. These sticks are added because the pole beans are up to here. The idea was they were going to climb the corn. This is our tallest corn. It's up to there right now. So I don't know how that works in some climates, but clearly our beans are far outgrowing the corn. So we added just some dead sticks from the woods to make them a bit of a trellis. It's only a problem now because in the beds they're planted in, they're in front of the corn, because the idea was they would climb up it. So in the future, I will plant that in reverse here. I'll definitely plant beans in the back where they can crawl up, because hopefully they don't shade the corn too much at this point where they're like 3 times as tall as it. So I planted similar but slightly different things in each bed. Everyone has some kind of squash or melon in both corners. Those are doing very well, and I have notes on all this. None of this would probably apply to any of you, so I don't suppose it matters, but like the ones in that corner are doing very well, while this corner are growing and they're fine, but they're much, much smaller. So over time I will probably plant more of whichever one that is. But we have corn in the center of every bed. I've got some popcorn alternating with sweet corn. We've got a flowering tobacco in the front. Pollinators love that. We have some flowers just along the front, marigolds, pansies, petunias, and sweet alyssum. These are all things that pollinators and such like, and it makes it pretty. I've got some amaranth in the back there. We'll see how that grows. The only thing I knew would be cold hardy would be some kales, and I stuck those in so that there would be something growing if nothing else did. Got some little tomato plants growing there. Like I said, I'm not expecting that to actually mature to producing fruit, but if the plant itself survives all year, then I will know it would be worth starting them earlier or getting some starts from a greenhouse till we have our own or something like that. But as you can see, the beds are looking pretty full, and Braylee's looking tired. There was a few things that didn't come up, and I'm not entirely sure why. I had several varieties of, let me see, poppies for one. I wanted to grow some bread seed poppies, and several other things that I know grow here because I've grown them before, and they just never came up. So I'm not sure if I had an issue with the seed. It was multiple different seed packets, but as you can see, the bed's plenty full anyway, and I figured it would be. I kind of overplanted because I did not expect every single thing to survive. Now we have some slight differences in beds, but we have kind of the same flowers and kales and stuff in the front. The beans are looking a little bit funny because we just added their trellises for them today. But as you can see, their tips are already way up there. And the corn is looking good, but it is not growing fast enough for the beans to actually climb it. But over here we have some safflowers, let's see, some bachelor's buttons, more melons. All our melons here at the beginning of July are just starting. I don't know if the camera can see down there. Just starting to form buds. I haven't seen an open flower yet, but they are doing well. I'd have to look at my little seed map to figure out what didn't come up right here, but the beans and the squash are about to swallow it anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. This one we've got some more little tomatoes that are doing well. They were just planted directly in the ground from seed. The pole beans here, these are scarlet runner beans, are just starting to bloom. First flowers I saw today. We have a few herbs like rue and calendula and more corn in the center there. More melons on the side with cosmos tucked in between. And once again, you can see the beans have far outgrown the corn rate. Though I'm very happy with, they say corn should be knee-high by the 4th of July. Well, this is up to my waist. Of course, that doesn't quite count because it got a 2-foot head start off the ground. But similar things in the other beds here. Again, you can see more tomatoes, more scarlet runner beans just starting to bloom. The corn's looking good. More flowers in the front. I've got some pepper varieties here that are actually growing. And again, not really expecting them to fruit, but if they survive all year, then I'll know it's worth planting peppers in here. Whichever squash variety this is super happy. That is really taking over there. The idea is with the little gaps in between the beds so you can kind of get in to reach everything, they will hopefully come down and just trail across the ground and stay warm in there. And then we kind of have most of the same things duplicated through more beds, more bachelor's buttons, more safflower, more calendula, more marigolds. This is another watermelon variety that is growing right beside the tomatoes there, but is not nearly as vigorous as some of the other squashes. Again, I'm really happy with the corn, even though it's not outgrowing the runner beans. And we got more melons, safflowers, beans, corn, tomatoes, peppers, lemon, mint, flowers, annual status, some more rue. I should plant basil in here because that's one of my favorite herbs and it's always been too cold for me to grow it, and see if that'll survive. Lemon verbena, more melons, strawberry spinach, etc. So anyway, that's a little look at what's in here. They're working very well. Oh, and if you hadn't seen this before, this bed's a little behind the others because at the start, because it's closest to our door, we had chickens sitting in it and squashing things. We've remedied that, but these boards just keep rainwater when it comes down, keep it splashed into the bed so it doesn't just splash soil down the side of the building, and that's been working really well. But this whole thing out here makes me really happy. They're looking good. Everything should grow quite a bit taller through the rest of our summer here, but I'm really, really pleased with what is growing and how full they look and pretty and flowery, and especially the things that are surviving that I know would not normally survive in our climate. So maybe that gives you some ideas for whether you need an extra warm area or an extra cold area or an extra kitty cat or whatever the needs in your area happen to be. But it's pretty cool to know that we can actually create a microclimate here that successfully is growing things that I know would freeze, and they didn't. And it's been 1 week since I actually recorded most of the footage for this video because I fell asleep at night. We've been working too late and I've been exhausted. So it's getting put together now. But I just wanted to add this at the end. Look at how much this stuff has grown in the past 7 days. I mean, I don't know if you can compare the scale with like how far up the windows it is there. This is that squash that I said was going to swallow the remaining hole, which it certainly has. There's now no holes in these beds. We got honeybees and bumblebees coming and going. The scarlet runner beans, which are much more orange than I realized, are blooming away like mad, and probably our hummers and bees and stuff will like them. But next year I'll definitely plant something less orange just because I don't like the color of a bean variety. But anyway, look how huge these have gotten in 7 days. The growth in here is simply phenomenal. The beans are almost to the top of their trellis sticks, the very top tips there. I just wanted to throw this in there. So 1 week into July now, this is what they're looking like. Thanks for spending your valuable time with us.
I hope you learned something interesting and useful.
Or found something beautiful here.